Good evening in Poland. Good afternoon in United States. My
Yes,
today guest
yes.
is Chucky Brown. Hello, Chucky.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. And how are
All
you?
right. I'm doing great. Hello to Poland.
Hello. And is it it's just before the Christmas time, so I guess that in the shops and outside there are a lot of these gadgets and the stuffs which remind that Christmas will be soon.
We'll be very soon. Yes.
But we start with basketball. We focus at this. But before I will ask question about the NBA time. I'm really
Okay.
curious. Who was your favorite player when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, my favorite player, I had a couple of favorite players. Marcus Johnson was one of my favorite players as a young kid, growing up in New York City. Most of my friends, the Knicks were not very good growing up. I did like the Knicks. The Knicks were not very good growing up. So I had to find me another team to cheer for because my all my friends like the Sixers and Dr. J. I'm a Dr. J fan as well, but Marcus Johnson was one of my favorite players, and as a kid, I just used to like to argue for the sake of arguing, so I couldn't go with Philly like everybody else. So I had to argue. So Marcus Johnson and Dr. J were two of my favorite players as a kid.
Mm-hmm. And did basketball was your favorite sport from the beginning, or it just appear during your during the time?
No, actually, baseball was my favorite sport growing up, and I got hit with the ball, and so I chose to play football. I didn't want to get hit with the ball, and when I played football, I broke two of my fingers. So then I didn't want to break any body parts. So then I quit playing football, and I started to play basketball. And I mean, things just happened.
Mm-hmm. And in a 1989 NBA draft, you were selected by Cleveland Cavaliers in the second
Hmm.
round.
Hmm.
What did surprise you the most in your rookie season?
Um, my rookie season, I think what probably surprised me the most is probably like how many games we had to play because I never like kept count of the games, and I know like coming from college, we played probably at most we would play maybe 30 games. So that was easy to keep track of. But I think the fact that we played 82 games, we had 8 preseason games, and then if you made the playoffs, you could play all the way up until almost July. So I think that basically was the biggest surprise for me.
Mm-hmm. I quickly checked that Marquis Johnson and his career in the 1990. So, do you got the chance to play against him?
No, I did not get the chance to play against Marcus. I did not play against Marcus, I don't think, unless he might have been with the Clippers. Did he end with the Clippers? I can't remember. But I did not get to play against him. But like as I got older, and how I chose my personal number, which is 52, James Worthy became like my favorite player, and that's why I chose that number. I never wore the number 8 that Marcus Johnson wore. But yeah, I've always been a Marcus Johnson fan, but never got to play against him. I did get to play against James Worthy though.
Okay. And usually, when I ask the question about the rookie season and all those rookie duties, there
Hmm.
is a lot about the donuts and the coffee and newspapers issues. Do you got
Yeah.
any funny story from your rookie season and some
Oh yeah, yeah,
special
yeah,
quests?
definitely. Oh yeah, definitely the donuts. So you had to bring donuts to practice every morning. So my one of my favorite people, or two of my favorite people, but what my rookie favorite person was Larry Nance. So Larry Nance kind of pulled me to the side and said, "Look, every morning you're gonna come here early and you're gonna bring me some donuts and we're gonna work out." So I was like, okay. so so every morning I brought donuts for the whole team. But Larry and I would get there early and work out. And what it did was it just taught me how to be a professional because I learned that if you want to survive in the NBA, for a long period of time, you're going to have to come early and stay late and do what others are not doing. So, I mean, Larry doing that, even though, it cost me a little money, not much money, but still, it helped me as far as becoming a professional. And, he helped teach me about being a pro.
Mm-hmm. And was it difficult? Because usually when you appear in the NBA, in the previous
Mm-hmm.
stage of your career during education in the high school, you were a star or the
Mm-hmm.
main player in the team. The
Mm-hmm.
same in the college and so on.
Right.
And not everyone got the chance to be a starter or be the star or the one on which the franchise is built. So what about the ego? Is it an issue when you want to stay in NBA longer, especially if you don't start as a star or of the
Uh-huh.
main player?
I never had a problem with ego because, growing up as a kid, not having much and having to work for everything. And then my parents, I was fortunate enough to have a mom and a dad in the house. And, just to see them go to work every day and, just the things that my father taught me and my mother taught me, that kept my ego out of it, if there is such a thing with me. Um, I didn't have that. So, I always worked for everything. So I knew like anywhere I had to go, I had to work. So I never had a problem with ego. Now I have seen ego affect some guys to where, it could be late in the game and the coach may want to put you in a blowout situation where it'd be 3 minutes left, where a guy would be like, nah, I don't want to go in. That was never me. Anytime I had the opportunity to play, I wanted to play because my father used to always say, like, you only get to do this a certain amount of time. So take advantage of it. And that's all I tried to do. So for me, ego wasn't a big part of it, but I have seen where ego has gotten in the way of some guys, you know what I'm saying? So, and I'm sure you've seen it too. When, guys, sometimes some guys have gotten offered contracts that they felt like weren't like they felt like they deserved more, but the market value was what they offered you. In that situation, even though you don't want to take that, maybe you cut the years down and you take the money and then you go for another one, bet on yourself, or you sign a year deal, or whatever you got to do. But I think that has gotten in the way of some guys, the contract stuff. But I never had a problem with ego at all.
Mm-hmm. And 91, 92 season, you were in Los Angeles Lakers, so you got the
Mm-hmm.
chance to play with James Worthy. It was
Mm-hmm.
the season after NBA Finals and lost
Mm-hmm.
1-4 with Chicago Bulls. Also, the first season without Magic Johnson. So,
Mm-hmm.
how looked the atmosphere in LA? Was there still expectation to fight for the NBA Finals, or they expected that without Magic, we need to calm down and the new times are coming?
I think always in LA, they expect championship. Some cities are always expected to put together a championship team. You don't have rebuilding years, and LA is one of those cities. New York is one of those cities. They don't expect to be rebuilding. So I don't think I know Magic was gone and he was a big part of it, but you still had Byron Scott, you still had Vlade Divac, you still had AC Green, you still had James Worthy. Even though they were older, you still had a pretty good nucleus of experienced guys that were capable of a championship run. We did make the playoffs and we lost the first round that year to Portland. But I think that the expectations were always high and are always high in LA, and it's like championship or bust. So I think that always in LA they expect to win. So I hope I answered that correctly.
And it was your second team, and
Yes.
you played in 12th team during your NBA career. So
Yes.
you are in the most franchises played for a group with Joe Smith, Jim
Mm-hmm.
Jackson, Ton Mazenburg, and Ish Smith. What is the most difficult when you are traded or when you need to find a new club?
I think probably the most difficult thing is whether the team is gonna because usually if you get traded, you get traded to a spot. Like I've been traded before and expected to find my own living. So I think those type of things are the hardest thing. Like you need somebody to help you because you get into the city and if you don't know that city, you need to know like, okay, what are the areas I need to move to, what areas I need to stay out of, you know what I'm saying? So and if you got kids, it makes it more difficult. So for me, I never had kids during a move, so it wasn't as hard. It was just me at the time until coming to the end. I didn't get married until like my 11th year in the league or something like that. So, um, but the most difficult thing is finding somewhere to live. Just like learning the area. I think, and just I don't think it's that hard to get acclimated. Like when I got traded from Phoenix to Milwaukee. Phoenix, I'm leaving, super hot weather and nice. I'm going to Milwaukee where it's cold and snowing. That wasn't hard to adjust to. It was just, finding somewhere to live. I think is the most difficult thing. And like years ago, they may have changed that now, but years ago, was nobody to help you do that. You kind of were on your own doing that.
Mm-hmm. And also during your career, I think that the way how the team travel changed a lot from the late 80s. Probably you travel just normal plane, and
Mm-hmm.
later it was the private. So I guess it was easier at the end of your career to travel from the city to the city.
Yeah. It was much easier, like game wise. Like when I first came into the league, there were only probably two teams chartering. I think it was the Pistons and the Lakers. Might have been the only two teams that used a charter plane. And for other teams, it was like every now and then they would charter. So I know my first year in Cleveland, we never chartered, and we had flights like the day of games. We would fly in and play that night. So things got a little better. Like coming towards the end, um, probably around maybe my sixth or seventh year in the league, everyone was chartering. So, there weren't any teams that were flying day of the game anymore. So, I mean, it's gotten a lot better. The NBA has gotten more, sponsors and stuff involved. So there's a lot more money involved now. So everyone charters now. So the traveling is a whole lot better and, a lot easier to play those games when you can get into a city, you know, at least like 12 hours before and get some rest and get acclimated to the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And also during your career in the NBA, you've got the episode in Italian league. You play for
Mm-hmm.
Pallacanestro Firenze. How do you
Yes.
remember this time spending in that Italy and Tuscany?
Oh man, I loved Italy. The only thing that wasn't right was, it was the organization wasn't quite there. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're a foreigner, and I was a foreigner, so when you're a foreigner, when you go to another country, um, if the organization doesn't have their things in line, it can be hard for you because being a foreigner, you like I'm going over there knowing a little bit of the language because I took a lot of Spanish. Growing up in New York, you grow up around a lot of Puerto Ricans and Spanish people, so you take Spanish and you learn Spanish. And Spanish and Italian are a little similar,
Yes.
so I was able to understand a lot more than I was able to speak. But it can be difficult going somewhere and not knowing the language if things are not in order. So things weren't, in order like they needed to be. So it was a little bit tougher for me to communicate to people what I needed and getting stuff done. But that probably was the worst part of it. But I loved Italy. I loved the food. I loved learning about different cultures. And I hope to learn about the Polish culture one day. You know what I'm saying? So I like to get out because here in America, I think sometimes you have what I can't think of the word what they call it, but it's where they try to make it like here's greater than there because there's that you have to experience, other cultures. Like when I went to Norway and, you know, I had a great time. People treated me great. Learned some Norwegian culture, got to eat like the Norwegians ate. so, so, um, I think it's good to get out and learn other cultures and going to Italy, learning about their culture. I really enjoyed it. And I just think that I wish that everyone would try to learn more about each other's culture, then maybe we wouldn't have some of the issues that we have. So, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think that's learning about culture and using different languages is also help you to see that abroad there are people similar to you. Of course,
Yeah,
there are differences, but there are a lot of similarities. And also
exactly.
staying in Firenze, I guess that when you don't have these games outside the Tuscany, that there was a great chance to be in the museums, and also the area is fantastic. So
That's right.
nice. It was, I guess, a very nice time there.
Yes, a very nice time. I got to see like the big cathedral, just like going to Rome and those places because you hear about them in history class, but to go there and see where like gladiators fought and I'm like wow, like like they was doing that in there, you know what I'm saying? So and just like being around Florence, I was in Florence and like just being like outside of the soccer stadium and the people telling me like, you know, in a little bit the soccer stadium gonna be moving. You can see it moving. Like what? Like yeah, the people in there gonna be and just to see like how hyped people were about soccer and it just makes you want to learn more about it. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, just learning other people's culture. I want people to know more about my culture too, and then we understand each other better. And like you said, we are similar, but we're also we're more similar than we are different
Hmm.
than we realize. You know what I'm saying? So, I just think that just going to see other countries is great. I have never been to Poland, but I look to come.
It's worthy. There are a lot of really nice places, a lot of mountains, nature, and also lovely cities with the history. So I recommend for sure.
Okay, well, thank you. If I come over there, I'm gonna give you a call too.
Sure. And when you come back to US,
hmm
you play in the CBA league and won the
hmm
championship. And it was in the
hmm
same year when you won the championship with Houston Rockets. And I
hmm
really remember this NBA Finals as Orlando Magic fan. So it
Yep.
was. Could you tell me, was it so easy because it was swept? It was 4-0 for you, and was it easy series for you? Besides
No,
getting
it was
one, game
right.
one.
Right. Well, no, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I think I was fortunate enough to be on a team that had won it the previous year. So they knew how to win. I think that the experience factor there, that's what we had over Orlando because we had just had Akeem Olajuwon, who won the finals, Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Robert Ory, Mario Elie. Those guys had just won the previous championship where they beat the Knicks. So they knew how to win, because we went on our way to the finals. We go into we're down 2-1 to Utah in the best 3 out of 5 series, and we win the last 2 games. We go into Phoenix down 3-1, and we win the next 3 games. So, and once we got up on San Antonio, we were up on San Antonio 2-0. They tied it, but then we won game 5, and we went back home and closed them out for game 6. So then when we got to the finals, we're up 2-0. So it was in the 2-3-2 format. So we had 3 games in Houston. So, when we got in the locker room, it wasn't no celebrating. That was the big thing. Like, we won the first 2 in Orlando. I mean, most teams would have been celebrating. And it was like, hey, look, we got to take care of our business. We cannot come back to Orlando. We got to get 2 games in Houston. And that's what we did. We went and took care of business. And I think because those guys had won it the previous year, um, that's what helped us.
And as I remember this series, it was close game one, and after a loss after overtime, and especially this 0-4 Nick Anderson free throw shots. In game 2, 3, and 4, it was different team. And when you, how do you remember, for example, Nick Anderson? Did he really change after this game 1? Because it's devastating, I guess, for the player to do such a thing.
Yeah, I think it did kind of mess with Nick a little bit. I know Nick personally, man, good guy, but I think it did like mentally wear on him because he was a good free throw shooter up until that point, and after that point, I think he struggled. After that, he struggled from the line the rest of his career. But I mean that's something that could weigh on you because he had a chance to seal game 1, and if they win game 1, that might be a totally different series. So we ended up getting game 1. But yeah, I think that the free throw thing did mess with Nick mentally.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned about the Hakeem Olajuwon and also Clyde Drexler. How it
Right.
was to have to had in a team those two legends to work with them.
Right. It was great, man. It was great because I can remember like Clyde. He always expected a lot out of you. So, and if you wasn't giving it, he'd tell you. You know what I'm saying? So Dream is the same thing, but they made led good examples so for you to follow by. And I can remember a game where like when Clyde first came to the Rockets, he and I were in a pick and roll, and he kind of dribbled with his head down. So usually when a guy has his head down, that means he don't see you. He's not looking at the floor. So I kind of came off a pick and roll, and when I rolled, he was looking down, so I kind of stopped rolling. I was like, "Oh, well, he don't see me." So then after the play, we might have a timeout or a free throw or something. I can't remember how it went down, but Clyde, he told me, he said, "Hey, you know, keep rolling. When you set the pick, keep rolling." I said, "Well, you had your head down." He's like, "Oh, I see you." So I was like, "Okay." So every time after that, I rolled and he still have his head down. He would hit me with a pass. I got many dunks because people would pay more attention to Clyde than me and didn't think that he would make the pass. But Clyde was probably, I ain't gonna say probably, he is the most unselfish superstar that I've ever played with.
Mm-hmm. And also the part of the team was Robert Ory, who got when you look at the statistics, maybe fantastic career is not reasonable to use, but when you look at the amount of rings he got, it's something amazing. What makes him such a great player, role player who was chosen to be a part of the team who got this championship aspiration, mentality or the other abilities?
I think a little bit of both. I think what Robert did was basically, he knew his role. So he knew he wasn't a guy that was expected to get, 30 a night. So he could get to 15. He's going to rebound. He's going to play defense. He's going to play great help side defense. So I think Robert knew his role and he played his role. So I think that's where a lot of guys make a mistake when you see guys. Some guys may have a shorter career, is where they're not willing to accept that role, and I think Robert was willing to accept his role, and that's why he was able to be wanted because he's always been a good piece to add. Because usually teams already have their established scorers, they need guys to do the other things, and Robert is one of those guys that could do the other things.
Like recently, I talked with Brian Skinner, and he told me that the most important thing for you is when you are in the NBA, is to find your niche and do the best what you can
Yep.
with your talent and with your and pick up your chances. So I think that Robert definitely did his homework and got
Mm-hmm.
amazing career.
Oh yeah, well you definitely, like Skinner said, you got to play to your strength. So and when you do that, you don't do the things you can't do. That's what we used to say. Don't do what you can't do. Do the things you can do. And when you do that, you can make a nice career out of it.
And when we check your career, it was also really successful because you were in the league for many years. You've got the ring.
Mm-hmm.
You play with legends, and also got the chance to be a part of the team from Hall of Fame coaches in Atlanta. We've got Len Wilkins. In the Rockets, of course, Rudy Tomjanovic. Who was on your top 3 list of the best coaches for you, that you've got the best cooperation with them?
Definitely Lenny Wilkins. I thought Lenny Wilkins was probably the best coach at drawing up a play and like get you a layup, dunk, or whatever. He could draw up a play and then get you a layup every time. And Lenny's like just his calm nature as a leader was great. I got to say Rudy T. Rudy T was one of my favorites because when you did something, it was almost like you were his son. You know what I'm saying? He was excited for you to get it done. And that third spot, I got Chuck Daly, Jim Valvano, I got Paul Silas, Rick Adams. I got a bunch of coaches that I played for that that I really enjoyed. But I'll say Chuck Daly was a guy that was fair. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't care, and he didn't care what another guy was making. So it'd be a guy making $10 million, guy making 500,000. If that guy making 500,000 was playing better, he was going to play, and that was very rare because you got 10 million invested in a guy. You want your investment out there, regardless of what it looked like. You know what I'm saying? Chuck didn't care nothing about that, and I don't think he was really pressed about it because he won games. So those are some of my favorite coaches.
And when you could create the NBA all-time teammates, Chucky Brown team, who would you pick? And there are 2 options that you could got the team with you on one position,
Okay.
or just the other 5 players which were the best teammates for you.
Okay, if I had to pick my all-time best teammates, it's tough, but I'm gonna go with it. So, starters, I got starters and I got a bench too.
Sure.
Okay, so my starters, I would say definitely Kenny Smith, one of my favorites. Larry Nance would be my power forward. Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and I would put Rick Mahorn in my starting 5. You know what I'm saying? Just forget about positions. Guys coming off the bench, I definitely got to have Mateen Cleaves in there. I got to have Derek Coleman in there. God, I played with so many guys. I'm gonna go with Sadell Three. He could come off my bench. Byron Scott. Oh man, it's so many guys because I played on so many teams. Chris Webber. Tim Duncan. I played with some real studs out there. Some real good people too. So that my bench is gonna be super long, but those guys will be my starters.
Yeah, it sounds like a kind of dream team.
Oh yeah, my personal dream team.
Yes, that's right. Chucky, thank you very much
All right.
for the chance to talk in the current episode of OPOstories from the NBA. It was really nice to hear all those inside stories from the locker room and from the court, and it was really nice to talk with you. So have a nice Christmas, because I saw the Christmas tree in the background. Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, man. And, anytime, man. Really enjoyed it, and I'm glad it only took a year.
Yes. From my perspective, a year is not the problem.
Okay. All right. Well, good.
Okay. So thank you very
All
much
right.
for time, and have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right. Bye-bye.